I'm so glad you stopped by.
Sorry it's been a while, Grandma.
Not at all. Give us a kiss. Now come and sit down. Tell me how you're doing.
On the wall are portraits of Gran and Gramps when they were young. Gabriel's inherited some good-looking genes. Mostly pictures of Gabriel, his dad, and Harrison Knight. Gabriel grew up in this room. Just being here make him feel safe. And after about 5 minutes, claustrophobic.
How you been, Gran?
Just fine, dear. I'm sorry I bothered you at work, but I was hoping you'd get a chance to go through your father's things in the attic.
Don't be silly. You can call me anytime. Can we talk, Gran?
Of course, my boy. How can I help?
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
New Orleans is very southern. Of course, though not as much as it used to be when I was a girl. It's gotten much more influenced by the East Coast and that California stuff. Still, it hasn't changed as much as other places, I reckon. We've always been happy here.
Tell me about yourself.
Me? Oh, surely you have something more interesting to talk about.
Oh, come on, Gran.
All right, dear. What do you want to hear?
What do you do all day?
You know how I love to knit and work in my garden. I also take long walks. It's the only way to keep an old body like mine from stiffening up.
You're not old.
Oh, don't be foolish. I'm older than the hills.
Tell me about the fall you met Granddaddy.
Well, you know I was born Rebecca Wright. My daddy owned a lot of land outside of town. We grew peas, corn, cotton, all kinds of things. It was a good childhood, but my father was very strict. He didn't much let me out of his sight.
Tell me how you met Granddaddy.
I met Harrison at a church revival. There was a traveling preacher back then, a big fella named Reverend Jim. I even remember his slogan, "Come to me to find your way." Your granddad was sitting right behind me and my girlfriend Alma, and at one point, old Reverend Jim was flinging his hair around with his fire and brimstone antics, and a piece of it, one of those small add-on-dos per man, went flying off. I swear, Harrison and I were the only ones that noticed. We both started laughing to beat band. Everyone looked at us like we were a couple of loonies. It was then I knew that he was for me.
How you feeling these days?
Fit as a fiddle, and don't you worry your head about it.
Just tell me anything at all.
I had your father when I was 22. The doctors told me I couldn't have any more after him, so I'm afraid I spoiled him rotten.
Just tell me anything at all.
I never loved any man but your grandfather, and I never will.
Just tell me anything at all.
I hate to admit it, but I was a jealous little thing when your granddad and I were younger. I loved him so ferociously, and he did attract the eyes of the ladies, whether he wanted to or not.
Just tell me anything at all.
I get lonely sometimes, but I have lots of girlfriends in the neighborhood. I call one of them if I'm feeling blue.
Oh, nothing, never mind.
All right, dear.
Tell me about our family.
Who would you like to hear about? Your granddad, your father, or your mother?
Tell me something about Granddad.
Your granddad immigrated to America when he was 21. He worked his way through school, met and married me, and we had your father, Philip.
Tell me about my father.
Your father was my only child. How we adored him. Philip suffered from terrible nightmares, just like your granddad did. They were 2 peas in a pod.
Tell me about my mother.
Your mother was Margaret Templeton when your father met her. She came from a very wealthy Creole family in New Orleans. She was beautiful and reckless. She was madly in love with your father, of course, but I also think she liked defying her family. Since you're so interested in family history these days, why don't you go by St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 and visit the family tomb? It would be a sweet gesture.
Maybe I will. You know, you get prettier every time I see you.
Oh, you.
I'm going to go up to the attic, Gran.
Be careful of the dust.
These old picture frames have been up here for years. Gabriel has seen these ornaments every year at Christmas for as long as he can remember. It's a lady's hat from the 1920s.
From Gran's Virginia Woolf period.
That tennis racket probably hasn't served a ball since the 40s. Grandma's attic is a storehouse of forgotten treasures and useless junk. A skylight lets welcome sunlight into the attic. That box of knickknacks has been up there for at least 5 years. There's a sketchbook on the chair that Gabriel vaguely remembers as his father's.
I think I'll take Daddy's sketchbook with me.
The old trunk looks like it's gone to hell and back. An elaborate mechanical clock, probably of German origin, is among the discarded treasures of the attic. It doesn't seem to be running at the moment. An elaborate mechanical clock, probably of German origin, is among the discarded treasures of the attic. It doesn't seem to be running at the moment. A key winds the clock's mechanism. There's an interesting design in the base of the clock. A ring of 6 symbols surround the face of the clock. A sword, a sun, an angel, a noose, an eclipse, and a dragon. It's the minute hand. The face of the clock is hand-painted. The face of the clock doesn't move.
Granddaddy, you old fox.
The old photograph showed Gabriel's grandfather with 2 other men that Gabriel has not identified. The letter is addressed to Heinz Ritter, whoever that is. images haunt the pages of Philip Knight's sketchbook the way they must have haunted his mind. The images touch a deep chord in Gabriel. So familiar are they that he finds it hard to believe they aren't from his own subconscious.
Well, Gran, I better get going.
All right, dear.